So there you go everyone, WWDC 2018 has literally just finished, and it was a pretty interesting event, I have to say. I'm a bit disappointed overall as to what Apple has announced today, so unfortunately we haven't seen any new hardware releases, not even the new AirPods wireless charging case or the AirPower Mat, which was a bit interesting. However, Apple has talked a lot about software, so we got iOS 12, macOS 10.14, watchOS 5, as well as the new version of tvOS, which, I don't know, no one really cares about that one that much. But yeah, here's everything you need to know in terms of all of those announcements. They come with a lot of changes, so here's everything in terms of iOS 12, macOS 10.14, watchOS 5, and the brand new version of tvOS. Everything you need to know, so grab some popcorn or any snacks, and let's have a look. So the event started with Tim Cook being on stage, and literally the first thing he said was that today was going to be all about software. And yeah, that's basically all it was. So the first thing that Apple talked about was probably the biggest thing, or at least the second biggest thing we've seen today, and that was iOS 12. So in terms of iOS 12, Tim Cook started by talking about support for all devices in terms of iOS. So how many devices are running iOS compared to the latest version of Android? And take a look at this. So Apple is still supporting devices from 2014, which includes the iPhone 5S, and the same thing would actually apply to iOS 12. So iOS 12 will be available on all devices that currently support iOS 11. So that includes the iPhone 5S, that includes the iPad Air 1, as well as I believe the iPad Mini 2, and also, why not, the iPod Touch 6th generation. That's literally the only iPod Touch that supports iOS 12. So essentially the same devices that support iOS 11, and iOS 12 would be actually focused on performance and bug fixes, so everything would be faster and more responsive. Now, you know how every time Apple releases a new software update, they talk a lot about how much faster it is than the old one. But in this one, this was the first iOS announcement in which Apple specifically talked a lot about older devices, and I believe it was iOS 9 when they talked a lot about how everything was more optimized for older devices, but I haven't really given any numbers. But this time they have given a lot of numbers. So on the iPhone 6, for example, app launch speed time has been increased by 40%, and then the keyboard display has been increased by 50%. So this is faster by 50%, and then you can take photos by 70% faster on the iPhone 6 than compared to iPhone 6 running iOS 11. So this is a huge improvement. Keep in mind that this is on the iPhone 6. The improvements on the iPhone 5S are also going to be quite significant, and then same applies to the iPhone 7, iPhone 6S, and so on. So all the devices are getting optimized, which is amazing. Tim Cook also talked a lot about how iOS 12 would be improving the app operation under load. So essentially apps would load much faster, and also when the CPU usage is at 100%, the device would be performing much better. And this is on all the devices, which is really, really impressive. So yeah, this is literally the first iOS announcement at which Apple has talked a lot about how iOS 12 is optimized specifically for all the devices, such as the iPhone 6. So yeah, Apple has never focused this much on performance and optimization for their devices, which is something that we definitely need, especially considering how many people are still rocking older iOS devices rather than, the iPhone 10 or even the iPhone 8. Let me know in the comments which iOS device are currently running or even watching this video on, and let me know also in the comments if you want me to do a specific speed test comparing the iPhone 6 on iOS 12 with iOS 11 and the iPhone 5S and so on. Don't subscribe and enable notifications if you want to see those videos as soon as they come out. And the second big change in terms of iOS 12, aside from the performance improvements, would actually be in terms of AR. So there's a new file format that's called USDZ. So this is a new file format for AR. So essentially you can actually send 3D objects to friends, and they would be able to see how that chair or that lamp would look like in their home without the need to install a separate VR app. So they can literally do that from messages, which is amazing. So this opens up a whole new world of possibilities. I cannot wait to try this out. And then speaking of trying new things out, Apple has released a brand new stock iOS app. It's actually called Measure. So this is a native app, and it's for measuring objects and measuring actual length of walls and different objects if you want to do that. I've actually used third-party apps that do the same thing before, so I'm really curious to see how well this would work compared to those third-party ones. But so far, it looks like a pretty feature-packed app, so I'm really curious to testing this as well. And then Lego has actually showed us a really cool app in which you build a virtual world around an actual Lego building that you buy. So this is an AR app, and then you can basically use the app to attach multiple buildings, bring those into the scene and animate those and see what's happening inside. So I think it's really cool. And then Photos is also getting an update with better search. We're also getting searching suggestions, pretty much the same thing that we have in Google Photos. So that's quite similar. Unfortunately, Apple hasn't said anything about unlimited photo storage. This was my main concern. This is my main concern at the moment with Apple Apple Photos, this is the main reason why I actually use Google Photos instead of Apple Photos, because you can store unlimited photos and videos, whereas with Apple Photos, you only get 5 gigabytes of free storage, and then you can buy more, but you have to buy it, whereas with Google Photos, you get the limited storage for free, for up to 12 megapixels for photos and 1080p for videos, but that's still really, really awesome to have. And unfortunately, Apple Photos still doesn't have this. And then Siri is also getting some updates. So Siri will be getting shortcuts. This is a pretty interesting new feature. So essentially any app can now implement Siri functions. So you can assign different custom voice commands for supported apps. And Siri would also offer suggestions, such as reminding you to turn on Do Not Disturb mode while you're at a cinema. So these would be location-based suggestions. And then you'll also have a brand new app called the Shortcuts app, in which you'll be able to create custom functions. So this is pretty similar actually to the If This Then That app. So essentially an automation app, and you can create custom shortcuts for heading home. This is pretty cool actually. So you can create custom shortcuts for a lot of stuff, going to bed, getting to a specific location, and then you can have your iPhone do specific things. So yeah, this is pretty cool. I cannot wait to play with this and see what it can actually do. Now there's also a brand new app that we got in terms of the News app. So the News app got a redesign, and same applies to the Stocks app, which now includes business related news. And also the Stocks app is finally coming to the iPad. Literally after 8 years, and we finally have it on the iPad. Unfortunately, we still don't have the weather app on the iPad or the calculator app, which is strange. I mean, why don't we have these Apple on the iPad? It doesn't make sense. Then iBooks has been renamed into Apple Books. And then CarPlay now supports third-party navigation maps. Now, aside from this, we also get a few improvements in terms of Do Not Disturb. So there's a new feature called Do Not Disturb mode during bedtime, in which you actually get 0 notifications while you sleep. So the display would be kind of off. You would only see basically a block that you're using Do Not Disturb mode during bedtime. And then also you would be getting a good morning message when you wake up along with the weather, which is great. And then Do Not Disturb mode also works based on the location. So you can actually turn on Do Not Disturb mode based on the location in which you're in. And probably one of the biggest improvements in iOS 12 is finally group notifications. Finally, notifications that are finally grouped by topic and time. We were waiting for this for so long now. And then there's also a brand new screen time app. This is pretty interesting. So essentially you can see weekly activity that shows you how much you've used specific apps, how many notifications you got from those apps. And you also have app limits now. So you get notifications when you've used an app for too long per day. So you can select, for example, you can set the Instagram app, so you only use it for like 5 hours or 2 hours or 30 minutes or so on. So you would get notified if you've used that app for too long. And in case that happens, the app would actually be blocked. So this also works for kids now. So you can allow certain apps for certain times, which is pretty useful to have, especially since you can actually track your usage right now in iOS 12, which is very useful for productivity purposes. And then we also get a brand new feature in terms of Animoji. It's called tongue detection. So yeah, basically detects your tongue. And then we also get a few brand new Animojis. So ghost, koala, tiger, and T-Rex. And then we also get a new kind of a new Animoji. It's called Memoji or Memoji. Essentially, it's your own Animoji. It's quite funny how Samsung ripped off Apple's Animojis with AR emojis on the S9. The only new feature in that case was the fact that you could create your own face as an Animoji, and now Apple's ripping off Samsung with that. So yeah, it's quite funny, but quite cool as well. Quite curious to playing around with those Memojis, because it seems like they are very customizable. You can change a lot of stuff from your skin color to even adding freckles and glasses and a lot of stuff. And then FaceTime got a really big improvement. Finally, we have group calls, guys. Finally in FaceTime after so many years. And Apple has added support for up to 32 people. I don't think I've seen a voice chat that supports more than that. So yeah, this is probably the voice chat service with the most amount of people that it supports. 32 people, which is crazy. And you can actually do that directly from a group chat. So you don't have to initiate a separate call. If you're already talking to a few people as a group chat, you can just press a button and there you go. You have FaceTime with up to 32 people, which is crazy. Apple also added a lot of filters and effects when it comes to both FaceTime and group FaceTime, including Animoji. So you can do that, group time, Animojis, and FaceTime. That's a pretty cool and interesting feature to have. And they also added a lot of stickers that you can use. So that's pretty cool, but that's pretty much everything in terms of iOS 12. So what about watchOS 5? So Apple has done a lot of changes in terms of health and fitness. So we finally get automatic workouts. So now workouts will be able to be detected automatically. We also get a few new workout types such as yoga, hiking, And then you can now create competitions with your friends. So you can have custom challenges, and then you will be able to get rewards based on that. But probably the coolest new feature in watchOS 5 is this new app. It's called a walkie-talkie function. So this is a brand new app, and you can literally talk to someone as if the Apple Watch was a walkie-talkie. So you just press a button. And if you've ever used the walkie-talkie, it's literally the same thing. The sound quality seems to be pretty good. It works on both Wi-Fi and cellular. So this is a really cool feature to have. I would say that's something quite unique that we haven't seen in a while, or actually at all on smartwatches. And then the Siri watch face is getting some improvements. We can now see sports, maps, and the heart rate on the actual Siri watch face. And then Siri shortcuts would also be supported on the watch face. And also a big improvement is that you no longer have to say, hey, Cindy, I'm not going to say the word, for the Apple Watch. You can just raise your wrist and then you can talk to Siri. So this is pretty big. And then also something that's also fairly big change is interactive notifications. So you no longer have to open an app. If you want to interact with it, you can just open the notification, and you can increase the table number reservation and so on. So you can change a lot of things from the actual notifications without you having to open up a specific app. Another big change is WebKit. So WebKit is finally supported, which means that now you can view links and email attachments directly on the Apple Watch. So you would no longer be getting that message, oh, you need an iPhone to view that. Now, unfortunately, we only got one single new watch face, and that's the Pride watch face, which, I mean, it looks quite cool, but I would have preferred something a bit more simplistic and not with too many colors, but that's just me. And we also got a brand new watch band, and it's called the Pride band, so that goes quite well with the Pride face, but I would have preferred Apple to release way more watch faces than we have now. Maybe even give us the option to create custom watch faces, which unfortunately we still cannot do on the Apple Watch. But let me know in the comments what you guys think about watchOS 5. And now moving on to tvOS. Finally, Dolby Atmos is supported. I was waiting for Apple movies, to be honest. This is Apple's rumored Netflix, but this one hasn't happened. So Dolby Atmos is actually the biggest change. And then also a big change is that we have some new aerials from orbit. So you can see the Earth in both daytime and at night. And this thing looks amazing. I cannot wait to have this running on my OLED TV. And next up, we have macOS 10.14. So this is actually the thing that I was waiting for the most at this event in terms of software. So Apple took a huge leap forward in terms of the changes. I'll be covering those shortly. In terms of the actual name, it's called macOS Mojave, and there were a few leaked names. I believe there were like 5 or 6 leaked names. This is the one that I thought it was going to happen the most, and this is actually the one that we've seen. So macOS Mojave is the new macOS 10.14. And yes, we have a dark mode. So Apple showed us a few new wallpapers, including the daytime Mojave and also the nighttime Mojave. So something really cool is that we would be having dynamic wallpapers, and those would change depending on the time of the day. Unfortunately, there's not that many changes. There's only about 3 changes per wallpaper. The dark mode was also introduced with these brand new wallpapers. So essentially, all the apps that have a light interface would show dark gray. Essentially, it's not true black because it's not an OLED display, it's an LCD display. But it was really interesting seeing that macOS got a dark mode with LCD displays, and the iPhone 10 that comes with an OLED display, it didn't get a dark mode. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. But yeah, there we go. We have dark mode on macOS. It looks quite cool, but I don't think I'll be using this every single time. When it comes to the calendar app, that looks a bit off. I don't know. And there's a few more apps that also look a bit off. So basically everything is now dark, really dark on macOS if you want that feature enabled. But something really cool is a brand new desktop feature. It's called Desktop Stacks. So this is great. This is amazing for organizing messy desktops. So essentially when you drag something on your desktop, you can have everything organized in stacks of images, documents, and so on. So everything would be quite a bit more organized on your desktop, and if you click on one of those, they would be expanded and you will be able to see everything that's in that mini folder, so to say. And then Finder also got a new improvement. It's called, basically a brand new view. It's called the Large Gallery View, and you can see the Finder info right on the right-hand side of the display, which is also quite useful to have. But I don't know, there's a lot of bugs and glitches in Finder. I'm really hoping that those get fixed. There's also, Finder doesn't support, did you know this? Finder doesn't support in QuickTime 10-bit videos, which means that if I want to record in 10-bit videos, these videos, I cannot really do that. I have to do it in 8-bit. Yeah, unfortunately, Apple doesn't support this yet. Hopefully, with macOS 10.14, but I haven't said anything about 10-bit support natively in Finder and QuickTime, so no news about that. And then Quick View actually now lets you annotate and even trim videos, which is really, really useful to have. If you don't know what Quick View is basically when you press spacebar and you can quick view an item without really having to open it. So that's pretty useful to have new features in Quick View. And then screenshots actually got some big features, including screen capture. So now we can record videos from the actual screen capture tool. There's also a screenshot menu that appears on the bottom right-hand side, basically similar to how you have it on iOS. I'm not really sure how well this would work if you basically spam the screenshots bar. So if you take a lot of screenshots in a really short amount of time, if that would glitch out, or I don't know, we'll see how that works. But yeah, lots of improvements in terms of screenshots and also quick view. And then also even more improvements in terms of apps. So a lot of iOS apps are coming to the Mac. So this is it basically. The News app is coming to the Mac. The Stocks app is also coming to the Mac. The Voice Memos app is also coming to the Mac. And finally, the Home app is finally coming to the Mac. And then aside from this, there's also improved security for time machine backups, camera, microphone, and many, many more. Safari is also getting some security changes, improvements, as well as more controls over tracking. And then we also have a brand new Mac App Store. So the new Mac App Store looks much more simplistic than before. You get suggestions in the new Discovery tab, and then you even have a few new more tabs, such as Create, Work, Play, and Develop for finding suitable app categories. So this is, I really like the design of this. It looks very simplistic, and I feel like you can easily find whatever you're looking for. And then Apple has also talked a lot about eGPU support for the MacBooks, especially which was, by the way, added in macOS High Sierra. So even better support is coming with macOS Mojave. Interesting enough, they actually talked about how well a MacBook with an eGPU can run on in DaVinci Resolve, essentially. So DaVinci Resolve is significantly faster with an eGPU, but I haven't really mentioned Final Cut Pro at all. With eGPU, which by the way at the moment still doesn't support eGPU for rendering, it's just for playback. But by far the biggest actual announcement from this event was this. So Apple won't be merging iOS apps and macOS apps, but instead, as I've been mentioning in my previous videos, yes, finally they would be bringing iOS apps to the Mac. So this won't be happening in iOS 10.14, or sorry, macOS 10.14. Phase 1 would be Apple bringing the News app, the Stocks app, the Voice Memos, and the Home to the Mac. And then phase 2 would be in 2019. And you're probably guessing what phase 3 is going to be. So Apple dropping Intel support entirely and then switching to their own processors for their Macs. So this is only happening in 2020 and even after that. But yeah, unfortunately in terms of the hardware, we haven't really seen any changes. So the software releases, the software changes is everything from today's events. So in terms of these software announcements, the developer betas are available today. So if you're a developer, you can install these. I'll be doing some videos on iOS 12, macOS 10.14, watchOS, as well as tvOS. So definitely subscribe and enable notifications if you want to see those as soon as they come out. But yeah, no new hardware, which was a bit strange. So even new iMacs, this is really weird. I was 99% sure that Apple would be releasing brand new iMacs with the 8700K processor. No GPU changes because AMD hasn't really released any GPU updates. But yeah, the 8700K would have been a really easy for Apple, an update really easy for Apple to do, and they haven't done that, which means that maybe, hopefully, a brand new iMac design is coming later on this year, or at least something with more changes than just a processor increase. And same applies to the MacBook Pros. So 6-core MacBook Pros is looking more than likely to happen, especially since Intel might be delaying those chips. But yeah, there we go. This was everything that I wanted to mention in this video. Yeah, thank you for watching. I'm Daniel, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Quite a lot of iOS related videos in the next few days, and yeah, looking forward to those videos. Can't wait to make those, and hopefully you cannot wait to watch those. So I'm Daniel, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Son of Tech, signing out. Cheers.